Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, everyone. Thanks
Pleasure
so much
meeting.
for taking time
Thank
coming
you.
on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting.
It's all good. It's all good. So, like, the first question I want to start out asking you both is I see you both wrote and made the film, the horror film Squealer. And can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you both to want to make a horror film like this?
I'll let you start, Danielle.
Okay. So this is a story that Andy and I had worked together for many, many years prior, and we knew we eventually always wanted to write and produce a movie for him to direct. And he had told me this story of Willie Picton, who was a pig farmer turned serial killer, and it was a movie that stuck with me. It chilled me to the bone, so much so that when he and I reconnected 7 years later, it took 7 years for the stars to align, for us, our schedules to line up to actually be able to do something together. I think we both had kind of forgotten about it, but we sat across the table and he said, "Okay, we're ready to write something. What are we going to do? What should we do?" And I was like, that story about that pig farmer, it just like it was in my bones still, like 7 years later. So we knew that there was a powerful story there. And we quickly made the decision that we wanted to just keep it inspired by. There was so many juicy parts to the story, but it was a very sensitive story because it's not that old of a story. So there's a lot of victims and families and things like that that might still be connected. So we first and foremost wanted to be really respectful of that and not lean too heavily in. And then we wanted to appease the horror crowd as well. So we made the decision to take that true crime and blend it with a little more of our own version of horror and blend the two together. And it's been a really awesome process. It was the first time that we had written something together. We've now been working together for a few years. And it was sort of seamless. It felt like a match made in heaven. Like we were kind of meant to write together. We just collaborate very well together, and it was pretty easy to pull the story together.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'd second all of that. It was a really fun process creating the whole thing from beginning writing all the way through shooting. Really, it was a fabulous process.
Nice, nice. And like, did you to get ready to make a horror film like this? Like, did you go back and watch any older horror films? Because it definitely had like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, it's odd actually that you say that, because that you asked that, because I thought when we decided to make it, I thought I'll go back and look at some horror movies, but I found when I went back and looked at a couple that my memory of them was better than they actually were. So I eventually sort of put that aside, and we started afresh with our own take on a horror movie. And I think part of the reason it's a little different is that neither of us are naturally sort of horror fans. We're both interested in the sort of the reaction that a horror movie gives you, but we're not someone that either of us that had watched hundreds of, that I speak to horror fans that have seen every single horror film I've
Yeah,
never heard of,
exactly.
and so whether it is right or wrong, I think we sort of started from a fresh sheet with our own sort of value system and our own structure.
I think we were attracted to the horror of this story and knew we wanted to like lean into that. And I think we had a good sensibility of what makes a horror movie.
Def-
So we really wanted to lean into that aspect. But at the end of the day, we really just wanted to tell a good and powerful story. And one of the things we really wanted to focus on, which is a bit more of the subtle underline of the story, was this, apathy that society has towards so many of these women that went missing and were killed. And that was a big part of it, that I think that was the story that we really wanted to tell,
okay.
which becomes the underlining thread, and that people in less fortunate situations, or that might have fallen victim to drug addiction or ended up, that work as sex workers, that they are oftentimes disregarded, and how unfair that is. And we wanted to shine a light on that and hopefully bring some compassion to that subject. So it's probably not a typical way to start a horror movie, but I think for us, that was part of the seed that got us going.
Okay. Okay. And like the area where you filmed that looked very, very creepy. So where did you film that? Was it an actual like pig farm area?
It's a ranch. He doesn't have pigs there. It's a huge ranch in New Mexico,
Okay.
and a, a really, I mean, it's a million acres or something, and it's massive. And I liked the idea that it was this fantastic sort of Western landscape, and yet in the middle of it was this horror that's going on. This sort of darkness in the face of all this beauty. So it was. We were very lucky that we found this location and we could shoot most of the movie there, because one of the great methods we had of doing it so fast was having minimum location moves. So we shot most of the film on that ranch and just the stuff in town separately.
Oh,
But it just sort of fell into place. It was just a really cool place to shoot it, and there was very little set building really. It was just most of it was there. It's really
yeah.
really amazing.
Wow. Yeah, well, it definitely looked scary on film, so that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, we had a fabulous production designer as well, Meg Bell, who was a late addition to the crew. We original guy that was going to production design the picture. Literally the weekend before we started shooting, got COVID, and
Oh,
so I had one conversation with Meg. She was on the East Coast somewhere, and she flew out and literally sort of got out of the rental car, went straight to the set and had ideas already. And I think she did a fabulous job with very subtly putting things into every set that Squealer was involved with. She put something in there that made you a little bit uncomfortable, and it was amazing. You would wander around these sets and you'd think, wow, it's just something a little bit off kilter, and
So creepy.
it's terrifying. You'd look into details, even the stuff that's not seen on film, and there'd be a hamster mummified in a jar or something. There's all sorts of weird stuff. It's just, there was weirdness at every avenue. It's fantastic. She brought a lot to the picture, I must say.
nice. And the last thing I'm going to ask you both is, where could fans follow the movie, follow you both at?
Oh, absolutely. Well, they can follow Lionsgate on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Andy and I are both on Instagram, and the movie is going to be available this Friday, November 3rd, in theaters and on digital and on demand. So everybody's going to get to see it so soon. Can't wait.
Definitely. Well, thank you both so much for taking
Thank
time
you.
and coming on the show. I always love talking horror, so thanks.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
very
having
much.
us.